Hi friends, Dawn the Recovery Lady here, living in the solution. I am Dawn, D-A-W-N, not Dawn or Donna, the recovery lady, and with another parking lot tip this week. This is not a tip about parking lots. When I feel so led to share a message, I love to pull over one of them out and just, excuse me, do it in a parking lot. I was thinking, today about you guys, the viewers, my own journey, the patients I've seen, clients. And do you know that we train people on how to treat us? Now, really take that in. We train people. We condition people around us throughout our lives on how to treat us. Have you ever heard somebody say, or have you said, gee, why do I keep hanging around all these bad people? Why do I attract all the losers? Why do I keep getting in one bad relationship after the other? What is it about me? I'm a nice person that people keep treating me this way. And it can be abuse. It could be being taken advantage of. It can be a lot of different things. But what I've told my kids, even from a very young age, especially as they got into relationships, set your boundaries and let people know who you are right away. Maya Angelou used to say, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Believe them. And great poet, deceased now. And what she meant by that is if somebody shows you who they are, if they treat you disrespectfully, take advantage of you, something that isn't sitting right with you, believe it. Don't think you're going to change them. Don't think you're going to make it different. Don't think, oh, if they only knew me. When people present, if they lie, cheat, gossip, steal about you, that's the kind of person it is. Believe them. They're showing you their true colors. Don't try to negate that. We spend a lot of time in our lives rationalizing things in our minds, thinking, well, everybody else is doing it. It must be okay. And we allow ourselves to turn off toxic behaviors in other people so that we can be okay. If you have a situation where you're not being treated well in a relationship, it could be a work relationship, a romantic relationship, a friendship, most of the time that happens when we allow ourselves to be treated that way. And you're probably thinking, what do you mean allow myself? I don't want to be treated that way. I don't like it. It doesn't make me feel good. A lot of that stems from childhood trauma. When we don't really know what a healthy environment looks like, or we haven't had healthy relationships modeled for us, and we kind of just take the crumbs of what we can get because our love tank, so to speak, was never filled up in a healthy way. We're running on fumes and we want to be validated. And because we don't know our self-worth, we allow and condition people to train us badly. So, for example, say you meet somebody the first time, a new friend, and they're like, hey, can I borrow your car? And you're like, dude, I know you're Susie's friend, but I don't really know you. I'm not going to let you borrow my car. In your mind, you're saying that, but then you're like, but Susie knows him, so he must be okay. I'll let him borrow my car. All you've conditioned that person is this is what you've told the other person. If you do that, you're a pushover. You have no boundaries and no self-worth. That's what we're showing people when we allow them to walk on us. We are training people on how to treat us. We're showing them how high or low our self-esteem is and our tolerance level. It's frightening, isn't it? Because nobody wants to be treated this way, but we condition people that way. It's it's very similar to me. I remember I have one of my kids is very involved in missionary work, sex trafficking, and fighting that. And I remember going to a rally with that person, with my child, and education thing. And I remember them saying, there's a profile that they look for, and they know what kind of person, the age, the sex, the hobbies of like high school girls that they want to target. And they can tell by your behaviors, the predators, this is extreme, with sex trafficking, that they know they're going to be able to get you to come to them, start to confuse you, seduce you, and get you. Even well-meaning, educated, non-educated, respectful people will take advantage of you and treat you badly if you let them. So the low self-esteem, the trauma, and then sometimes we allow ourselves to just get into situations of abuse. And what really sticks out to me on this is I went to a conference. It was a peace conference. It was actually about sex trafficking. And the assistant district attorney of this area where I was there. And she said something I'll never forget, and I've quoted a lot. She said, we are the only living thing God made, animals, creatures, and then there's us, the only thing God's made that we condition ourselves to ignore our gut feeling, which is, as a Christian, we believe is the Holy Spirit. So, for example, I remember taking my kids on a whale watching expedition, and it was in the Central Coast, and the tour boat driver was saying, the whales have their babies here, and then the babies know to migrate to the other end of the continent. And I remember asking him, how do they know that? And he said, it's instinct. It's how God wired them. They know what to do. But do you know, as human beings, and she was right, the ADA was right, we justify, we rationalize, we tell ourselves rationalize to convince ourselves something, to ignore that gut feeling, that bad feeling, that instinct that God gave us to keep us safe and to allow us to be treated well and to treat ourselves well. We ignore it. You get there's always the creepy Uncle Joe in every family, right? Hypothetically, stereotypically. And, you tell your kid, go hug Uncle Joe, go hug Uncle Joe. And the kid's like, I don't want to hug Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe's a creeper. And then the kid finally does because the parents prompting them. And the kid's like, well, if mom and dad say it's okay, I guess I'll hug Uncle Joe. Where really, as a child, that children's instincts are pretty good and pretty fresh and pretty right on. But we condition our children and ourselves to ignore that. Hence, putting ourselves in bad situations and not treating ourselves properly. And again, a lot of this comes mostly from low self-esteem, trauma, unresolved in our childhood, really, really that low self-worth. And until we start treating ourselves with respect and dignity, no one else is going to treat you that way. You don't want to get in a relationship, maybe you do, I don't know, where somebody rescues you. We talked in just a previous video, you can't unpack, you're attracted to your deepest level of unresolved hurt. And you can't get with somebody and unpack their bags, emotional bags, so to speak, and help them get better. And nobody can do that for you. You have to do it for yourself. And oftentimes it starts with counseling of some type. And there's tons of resources out there. Tons of counseling. There's free counseling in every communities. On most landlines, you can dial 211 and get free resources. It's a place to start. Once you start realizing, here's me, here's my higher power, and here's a person, a coworker, a romantic relationship, a parent. You want to get your identity not from a person. You want to get your identity from your higher power that created you. What we do is, instead of looking at our higher power that made us for our identity, for our self-worth, we get it from people, from the media, from standards. And that's always going to push you down because it's not accurate and their opinions are fleeting. And if anybody is not treating you well, it says something about their character as well. And it's a matter of not putting yourself in a vulnerable situation. And maybe, your one friend's like, oh yeah, Susie will always let you borrow the car. And the next time you're like, yeah, no, that doesn't work for me. No. Oh, come on. No. These are trained and conditioned decisions. We train people how to treat us. I want to give you one more example. before we go today. I remember being told and learning this when I was a new mom. A doctor said, and it was this really godly man. He was a psychiatrist that went to my church. And he said, Dawn, we train our children to have tantrums. And I'm like, no, as a new mother, no parent wants their children having tantrums. He said, because they wear us down. Maybe the baby screams for 10, for 20, your toddler, 30 minutes, and you let it go, and finally you can't take it anymore, and you give in. You can't take it, you give in at 35 minutes, and the next time you hold out for 45 minutes, and the next time you hold out for 60 minutes. You're conditioning your child that, hey, the longer I scream and cry, eventually my parent will give up. And I will get my way, because you're conditioning them that behavior works. And I remember after learning that, and I was in the market with my oldest child, pregnant with my second child, had 1 or 2 weeks worth of groceries. Cart was overflowing. I remember I was in the frozen food aisle, and my oldest child started having a tantrum. Like I'd never seen a tantrum like this from this kid before. And I mean full out on the ground, laying there, screaming bloody murder. And I had what that doctor had told me in my mind. And I looked, and it was a lot of work having a toddler, being pregnant, and getting all that stuff. And I had to load and unload. But I knew I had this one chance. So I picked up that toddler, and I walked out the door with the cookies, the treats, the food for the week, everything there. And said, no, you can't have that. I think I gave a warning. We're going to leave if you keep screaming like that. And the toddler kept screaming, and I left. And do you know that child never did that again in a store? Instead of her training me, I turned it around because I understood it. I understood what was happening. And that toddler never did that again. I flipped it. I knew my self-worth. I didn't give into it. I didn't let myself get worn out. When you are with somebody, a friend, a family, a loved one, a romantic interest, and something doesn't feel right, don't look around and say, well, they've got a good education, they've got a car, they've got a job, so-and-so knows them, the family likes them, they must be okay. Value yourself more than that. Start treating yourself with the love and the respect and the dignity you deserve. And if you just find yourself repeating this pattern so much and you can't even hear your God-given instinct anymore, you can get that back. Get some support to get that. It is never too late. I don't care if you're 70s, 80s, 90s, 100. It's never too late to get that back and to learn it and to pass it down, to change that behavior for the generations. I hope that was helpful to you today. I'm Dawn, the Recovery Lady. Please leave me a comment. Subscribe if you feel so led. It's such a blessing. And you have worth and you have value. And you're worth honoring yourself and changing those behaviors. And I think next time we're going to do the power of no. Talk to you later. Love you guys. Bye.